I found your picture again. Hello, and welcome to my review of Stephen King's It, the novel. This is going to be chapter 14, entitled The Album. This chapter, I ended up reading this twice again, like I did last time, and we get sort of the same format again. This chapter starts in the present and then goes back to the past. And at the beginning of this chapter, I'm going to try to stop saying so much. That's kind of my new goal. I just said it again. Oh, no. At the beginning of this chapter, the main six are getting some drinks together. I say main six because Stanley is no longer there, unfortunately. God rest his soul. They're all together, and they're getting drinks together, and sort of reminiscing, and also having all these horrible memories rush back to them. And Mike decides he's going to step off to the side to go get something there in the library, and I guess Mike is stepping off to the lounge room, and he opens the fridge, and he sees Stanley's head inside the fridge, and it's severed, and it's actually the same age as when they were kids, so it's kid Stanley's head in the fridge. And it starts talking to Mike, and this scene was a lot scarier to me when I was listening to it on 2.5 times speed, which I do sometimes. I do that sometimes, but, I did it again. This scene, it was supposed to be scary, but also it makes me laugh sometimes because of some of the things that Pennywise says, because he was talking through Stanley's voice, and he said, "I'm ahead now, Mike, you get it?" And they have this thing they say when Richie goes too far, which is, "Beep, beep, Richie." That's just kind of a way to tell Richie to shut up when he's saying too much. But it relates to this, because speaking of making me laugh, and like a part that's supposed to be scary, the head rolls out of the fridge, and it looks up at Mike, and it goes, "Beep, beep, Mikey, beep, fucking beep!" And that just made me laugh. I think Stephen King is actually intentionally combining humor and horror, which is something I like. And I don't know if it's supposed to be pure horror, because if it is, it's kind of taken away from it, because I know some of those things are kind of very dark humor, but I tend to find them to be pretty funny. So I guess I'm liking it still, but it's not purely scary like it should be. But also there are some not funny things too, because Pennywise is for some reason really racist, but I think that is because it's the racism of the town that is reflected on Pennywise as an entity. But that's interesting. So it's just a mixed bag there. And Mike says you might want to take a look at this cliche, and then that's when he's transported back to the past. And when I say transported back to the past, I'm not talking about them actually being transported, but it's the memory. The reader gets transported to the past because we begin in the present tense in the present, and then we go back to the past tense in the past. So Mike is flashing back to when he first meets the six of them in the clearing, including Stan. He meets all of them in the clearing and the barons, and they're just kind of hanging out, and he says, "It's weird because it's almost like they were expecting me. It's almost like they knew I was going to be there." And nothing really seemed to take place as far as any sort of ceremonies of getting introduced and stuff like that. They're just like, "Hey, look, there's Mike." And Mike is also saying to himself in this chapter, "How did I know that they would be there?" And they're sort of also reflecting on, why does 7 seem like the right number? And Bill Denbrough's talking about how it always seems to click, and I think Mike said that too, so it's almost like all of this is meant to be. But they're all going down into the barrens, and they're just sort of playing around down there like they do, but it seems to Mike like they're talking about building this clubhouse down there because they're trying to avoid talking about something else. I like almost all the interactions that the kids have here. I've already told you that I like the interactions, I like the switching between past and present, and that Stephen King's doing that expertly. But I also like their interactions and how much they all seem to be getting along, and there are very few things in there where it seems like, this doesn't seem like the way those characters react, or this doesn't seem the way that kids would handle this type of thing. It seems pretty well written, and I actually laugh out loud when I'm listening to it a lot, just because of their quips back and forth. So some shows and some books, which I will not name, have trouble balancing even like 4 or 5 characters, or 3 or 4 characters, but this book is managing to balance 7 characters, and it's doing it very well, and also other side characters that are getting introduced in this. So I do really like that about it. So anyway, they're down there in the barrens, and they're building up this clubhouse, and it gets revealed at one point that this body from this child, who has been apparently pecked by the bird, floats down into the Kandusky by the clearing, and they have not discovered that yet. A few things that I forgot to mention last time that I wanted to comment on too. Apparently the monster looks like different things to different people, because if you recall, only Richie saw the monster as the Teen Wolf. Or maybe it was Eddie. I don't remember. I just talked about how well the characters are being balanced, and then I'm like, I don't remember which one it was. But only one of them saw the character as the Teen Wolf, but Bill Denbrough saw the monster as the clown. So different things appear to them at different times, and it's always the thing that they fear most. It's being reinforced. And I think Bev made a point in this chapter too, that maybe now that they know about the bird, and now that Mike talked about with them, maybe now they can all see it, because that's something that Mike does when he goes down there. I know I'm jumping all around, but Mike talks about his experience. They all tell him about the experience, and they say, "You're in our club now, but you can't disclose our secret. We're going to try to kill the clown." And they even talk about trying to kill it with a silver bullet, but it says in the present tense that they ended up not doing that. They got cold feet, but they're talking about that in the past, making the silver bullet and possibly killing it that way. They're going to go back to Newbolt Street and try to shoot it and kill it. So they're just really forming this all together, trying to figure out how to beat this clown. And it's interesting, and that's really all there is to this chapter. Actually, there isn't, because it's called The Album, and I need to talk about that part of it. Wow. Trying not to say I've got to say this. When you're trying not to say you forget to say a lot of things, because you're focusing so hard on trying not to say that you're not speaking naturally. But I need to get better about that, so that's why I'm practicing now. Okay, the album part of this. They're looking at this album that Mike brings down, because Mike if you recall, has become sort of a historian in the present tense, and his father also likes to collect things from around Derry because he's not from there. And Mike basically says, hey, he likes to get to know the town and all this kind of stuff. So he has this album full of older pictures of Derry. And Mike brings this album down to the Barrens, and of course Bill Denbrough is telling him, make sure that you do not touch the pictures in here, because you know what happened when we tried to touch the picture that was moving inside of Georgie's album. Mike brings these pictures to the clearing, and Pennywise is featured in a lot of these pictures. And at first they don't move, and they're just looking at all of them, and then the pictures start to move, and the clown is in a parade picture, and he jumps from the background to the foreground, and he presses his face up against the picture, and it makes it bulge out, and he's saying he's going to kill them, and it starts taking the form of all the things that they've seen, and Stanley ends up freaking out when it says it's going to turn into the Dead Boys. And Bill has this moment where he's thinking, that's exactly how the monster wanted us to respond. What Stan just did, that must mean that it's scared, and it knows we're going to beat it. And Bill does seem to be sort of the smart one here when it comes to formulating their ideas, and he is the leader, but it seems like he's earned that with his ideas. I like that. That's something I gleaned about him pretty quickly. And like I said, it's that character development. Also forgot to mention, there's this little side story that Mike tells. It's kind of throwaway. He talks about how he's at this carnival on the 4th of July, and I think that's the day that he actually played his trombone at this thing for his school that they were talking about in the last chapter. And he sees the clown there, and it's one place, and then it's somewhere else that he couldn't have possibly walked in that time. And it's like, ah! And the kids seem to see him, but the adults don't seem to see him, and the same thing sort of happens in the parade in this picture. So that was kind of a throwaway thing. It didn't really need to be in there, I don't think. I really think they could have just, they as in Stephen King, could have just stuck with the one story with the bird, which he also recounts to them. This little throwaway story with the clown being at the 4th of July thing, that didn't really need to be in there. I don't think it wasn't really scary. It didn't really add anything. It's just, there was a parade, carnival thing, and the clown was there. Ah! So that's the only thing I thought was a little bit unnecessary. Maybe it could have been trimmed with the fat. But other than that, I really like this chapter. I know I jumped all around and I talked about it very slowly, but I liked it. And it was sort of lore building, but it was mostly just character building with the 6 of them, the 7 of them, I mean. And I really like these characters. They're being built up really well. Whichever ones end up dying in the present day, I'm probably going to be pretty upset about that. I'm anticipating that. It's a shame that Stan got killed so quickly, because I really like Stan as well. But I'll be interested to see what happens. Let's see what happens with this clown. Let's see what happens with the body that drifted into the Barrens, and figuring out if that's going to add anything to the mystery. We have a lot of things we flash back to that we haven't gotten back to yet. Some people that are going to die we know about just from things they've said in the present tense, but haven't happened in the present of the past, if that makes sense. So I appreciate you guys not spoiling anything past the chapter that I'm on, and that's really all I have to say. I'm going to read the next chapter tonight. So until next time, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.